You're live.
Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are in the United States at the moment. I'm Bob Haig. I'm the chair of the Commercial Division Advisory Council in New York, and I'm a litigation partner at the law firm of Kelly, Dry and Warren in New York City. The Advisory Council, which is presenting this program today, is hosting this program, is a group of lawyers at firms, in-house counsel, and judges who've been appointed by the Chief Judge of the state of New York to advise him or her, as the case may be, on all aspects of the commercial division and all kinds of developments in the business world that may affect the court system. We've been in existence for about 12 years or so. And just for those of you outside New York, as you know, this is on the commercial division of the New York State Supreme Court. This New York State Supreme Court is the highest trial level court in New York State. The Court of Appeals is our highest appellate court. So we're talking about trial level clerkships today, not appellate clerkships. We're going to jump right into this program in just a minute. I just want to mention a couple things up front. There are really two principal purposes of this program today. The first one is to talk with you about positions as law clerks and law interns in the commercial division, which are available now, will be available in the future, and will continue to be available. We think that these clerkships are extremely attractive for law students for the reasons that are going to be covered in this program. We'd be grateful if students would apply for them. We know we have a lot of students that are joining us today, and there are also a lot of clerkship direct placement office people, clerkship people, and if you would bring them to the attention of your students. We think that these clerkships will enhance the professional development and education of students and also lead to really attractive employment opportunities and professional lives in the future. We think that firms will appreciate the skills that they will learn, that interns and clerks learn in the commercial division, and will reward them. The second major purpose of the program is to share with you some information about the commercial division itself. And the purpose of that is to put these clerkships in context. In very, very broad terms, there is a national and an international trend toward creation of business courts. And the commercial division is rightly regarded as a leader and a model in that area. There are now 28 states in the United States that have got business courts. There are more than 40 countries that have got them, and there seem to be more every day. They're also getting a fair amount of attention in the academic world. There are law review articles being written. They're the subject of programs, and it's something that arguably has changed the litigation landscape throughout the world. So we're going to jump right into the program. We're going to do this not as speeches, but on a question and answer basis. Our goal has been to anticipate the questions that you would like to ask and to give you answers to those questions by well-qualified people with diverse perspectives. And by that, I mean, we've got some practicing lawyers, we have some judges, and an in-house counsel who will respond to them from their own perspectives. We're going to use the Q&A feature on Zoom. So if you have questions, you need to type them out on Zoom and send them in, and we'll do our best at the end of the program to deal with any questions that we receive. And of course, you're free to send an email to me or my assistant, Grace Grissett, who many of you at law schools have been in contact with, and we'll try and respond as promptly as we can. So without further ado, I'm going to jump right in. And our first speaker is Jen Barrett of Quinn Emanuel. And I should say, I'm not going to give introductions to any of the speakers other than their current affiliation and their name. If I tried to give you biographical information, I'd probably finish on Thursday afternoon. And that isn't the goal of this program. So I'm going to start with Jen. Incidentally, Kathleen Sullivan was originally going to participate. Jen has graciously offered, well, Jen's going to explain to you, I think, why she's here. So Jen, let's start off. Tell us about yourself and why you're here.
Thank you, Bob, very much. As you noted, I am here as a substitute for my law partner, Kathleen Sullivan, and I don't dare to say I can step into Kathleen's shoes, but she was called away to an emergency argument in the Ninth Circuit at the last minute, so she is unable to attend, but she very much sends her regrets. She asked me to pass on an observation to the group, which she felt gave, from her particular perspective as a former law professor and the dean at Harvard and Stanford Law Schools. Kathleen says that she regards a clerkship on the commercial division as a golden opportunity for any law student who plans to go into business litigation. Federal clerkships are fantastic, but a commercial division clerkship prepares law graduates far better for the complex commercial cases they will work on every day. And I can say I agree completely with Kathleen's perspective there. And I'll just briefly note that I come to this from the perspective as the co-managing partner of Quinn Emanuel's New York office. And many of you know this, but we are a entirely business litigation law firm, and we have over 300 lawyers in our New York office, and many, many of us practice in the commercial division. In fact, I was there this morning for a preliminary conference.
Jen, have you had any particular involvement with judicial clerkships? And maybe you could tell a little bit about your involvement in recruiting and placement and those kinds of things, and hiring for that matter.
Sure. One of my roles as managing partner of the New York office, which is our largest office, is overseeing the hiring of law students, summer associates and associates, as well as clerkship candidates. Many of our associates, not surprisingly, do clerk because of their interest in litigation. And as do most firms, we highly prize clerkship experience in hiring. Clerks hit the ground running. They have advanced research and writing skills. They also have the benefit of seeing how their judges decide cases. The commercial division affords a really unique opportunity for us to recruit clerks because of the perfect match between what our practice area is and the entire universe of what is covered in the commercial division. So we do especially prize clerk experience in the commercial division. We have sent some of our junior associates to clerk there and come back, and we have hired people coming out of there, and we certainly hope to do more of that in the future as that program expands.
Tell us a little more about your involvement in the commercial division and about the commercial division itself.
Sure. I and my partners, we frequently practice in the commercial division. Right now, I have 3 active commercial division cases, but I very often have more. Having practiced in New York for over 30 years, I can say that I have absolutely seen a shift in the mindset. I know you're going to hear from in-house lawyers later, but our clients are increasingly comfortable and desirous of having their matters resolved in the commercial division as opposed to in federal district court, because they know that they're going to get a judge who is immersed in commercial cases, who understands business, who understands the structure and economics of business transactions. And as a result, they're likely to get the most sophisticated and active bench that they can for those types of disputes. And that's why we recommend it to our clients very frequently.
Jen, I mentioned a minute ago this national and international trend toward creation of business courts. How does the commercial division fit within that trend? Is it a leader? Is it a follower? Where does it fit?
It's definitely a leader. As I said, I've been doing this for 30 years, and I very clearly remember in the mid-90s when the commercial division was being formed. I believe it was the nation's first general trial court that's devoted exclusively to business litigation. And as we all know, many trial courts have followed in that way. We do practice in other state business trial courts, and I can say unequivocally that the commercial division is really unparalleled in terms of both the sophistication of the practice, but also what it offers. Delaware Chancery Court is obviously a very sophisticated business forum. It's one of the nation's most prestigious business courts, but it is only a court of equity. So they don't hear cases that involve damages, for example. So the commercial division really is the forum where you need to go if you have a complex commercial case involving money damages, many of which of our cases involve hundreds of millions of dollars.
What would you say to law students who are considering judicial clerkships in the commercial division?
I think they should absolutely do it. I think it's a great, relatively new way to get into commercial litigation through a clerkship. I think it affords a very specific connection to the New York business community. It comes with equal prestige, I think, as federal courts and certainly other state business courts. And again, I strongly encourage students to do it. And we certainly look for that type of experience because it is so unique when we are recruiting people.
And we've got in our audience today lots of law students, but we also have faculty and administrative staff from the law schools. What would you say to law schools about encouraging their students to apply for these clerkships?
I think it should be an important component of the clerkship opportunities featured by all law schools. With the large number of graduating law students who decide to start their litigation practice in New York, the commercial division really is a unique and significant pipeline for future law firm associate positions. It will afford your students the opportunity to get to know the businesses in New York, to get to know the law firms that practice business litigation in New York, and to get to know some of the most important judges deciding business disputes.
We've got about 1 minute left. Is there anything else generally that you'd like to share, Jen?
You know, I think generally speaking, I assume all the students on the call know and understand the importance of clerkships. But I do want to emphasize that clerkships come with a very mixed practice, including criminal cases, appellate cases, cases involving personal injury and other types of claims. And you don't really get to pick and choose your docket. But if you clerk in a business court like the commercial division in New York, and you know you're interested in business litigation, you're going to get a perfect match in terms of the practice that you're looking for in the future.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Bob. Take care.
Let me turn to Tracy Davis, currently a partner at Seaforth Shaw, a former chair of the New York City Bar's Judiciary Committee, and also a former principal law clerk to the, may I say, legendary commercial division judge, Charles Edward Ramos. Tracy, and Tracy is in Paris at the moment, so a little bit different time zone. So let me jump in, Tracy. It's been two decades now since your clerkship in the commercial division in Manhattan. How do you think that clerkship has enhanced your practice over those 2 decades?
I think that having worked, and thank you, Bob, for having me. I'm happy to be here today and very much looking forward to just sharing what I think is a unique perspective as a result of having worked in the commercial division, which has career court attorneys who assist judges in deciding complex commercial disputes. And it's those seasoned attorneys who would provide the most unique experience for students coming out of law school. And believe me, having former colleagues on this webinar with me, I can tell you that they are accustomed to providing that kind of unique learning opportunity that I do believe is unmatched anywhere else. As was previously noted by Jennifer, where you're working with judges who are ensconced in nothing but complex commercial cases day in and day out. It is one of the most busiest, if not the busiest court in the world. And some of those cases are so esoteric and so uniquely situated that you can't help but utilize your analytical skill set, your writing skills, and obviously you'll get to see some of the best commercial litigators in the world come before the judge that you'll hear from to decide what kind of style, what kind of nuanced practice you may want to have as a commercial litigator. I don't think that there is an experience comparable, and I can tell you having now spent 20 years outside of the court system, that it certainly sets my way of looking at legal issues apart from my colleagues.
Tracy, you are the immediate past chair of the New York City Bar Association's Judiciary Committee, and you head that role, I think, for 3 years. And during that time, you had an opportunity to observe a lot of information about both commercial division judges in the state system and non-commercial division judges in the state system, as well as candidates for the federal bench. What is it about the commercial division judges that makes them different from many other categories of judges?
The practicality that's expected in their handling complex business disputes, the need to look for ways to do so in an efficient manner that's consistent with the overall business community that comes in to utilize their services. I think you'll find that the commercial division judges, and I've got several matters before various commercial division judges right now, and I can tell you that the level of responsiveness, the level of dedication to not only getting it right, but getting it right swiftly and in a way that's most cost efficient, even where there are non-commercial parts using different civil procedures in deciding matters. For instance, as most know, commercial courts in New York do not stay discovery, typically where there is a dispositive motion. And I know I'm getting somewhat granular, but I think it's important to recognize that even with that longstanding rule, there are many a commercial division judges that, despite the fact that there is this well-established rule, they're willing to set aside that rule if it makes sense. And I think that's truly what sets them apart. They're active thinking participants in helping you as a commercial litigator to help your client get your case disposed of.
Tracy, you're now, I'm sorry, did you finish?
I'm done. I could go on, but we've got only 6 minutes, so.
Right. You're now a partner in a large law firm and you're involved in hiring associates. What attracts firms to hire former clerks from the commercial division?
It's the access to the way judges think. It is the experience that clerkships offer to students that don't really have the ability to get that kind of experience anywhere else. There are economics that are involved in retaining and keeping busy newly admitted attorneys. And the seasoned experience that often comes with doing a clerkship, particularly one in like the commercial division where they handle over 40,000 motions a year. So there is no lack of access to opportunity to further develop and hone one's legal skills. And so it's that honing of skill set in a short period of time, very, very early on in a newly admitted attorney's career, that makes them much more marketable. And then, of course, it also doesn't hurt that they've established relationships with those folks who are within the court system. That's how you get things done.
You've been talking about honing skill sets, but let's talk about marketing them to potential clients for a minute. How does your experience as a commercial division clerk had an impact on, in effect, marketing the skills that you've developed to in-house counsel and any clients?
Well, so we don't as a former court attorney, as one who's now practiced for 20 years, I don't need to waste my time or my client's money on procedural posturing that's unnecessary. And it's having that expertise and background that helps me to sell to my client my ability to dispose of disputes in a much more efficient way. And that's what clients expect, and that's what we are expected to provide them with. And so I'm confident that when I tell my client, you know, we don't need to do that letter writing campaign because we could just send an email to the judge, because we know that the commercial division judges are going to be more responsive, then I would be much more apt to do that than to engage in ceremony of writing extensive letters on disputes that really could be easily resolved.
Tracy, thank you very much. Tracy has been talking from the perspective of a former clerk in the commercial division, but now I'd like to move on for a few minutes with two leading practitioners in the commercial division to talk just briefly about the topic of practicing in the commercial division. And our two speakers on that topic are Susan Shin, who is a partner at Hunton, Andrews & Kurth and a member of the Commercial Division Advisory Council, and Ted Wells, who's co-chair of the litigation department at Paul Weiss, Rifkin, Wharton, and Garrison. And Ted, let me start with you. Why would a practitioner choose to commence a case in the commercial division? I think you're on mute, Ted.
The commercial division is hand-tailored to resolve complex commercial disputes quickly, efficiently, and predictably. The proceedings in the commercial division can streamline litigation and save clients substantial time and resources. The availability of a dedicated court whose judges are resolution of complex disputes. And New York has one of the most well-developed case law on commercial law issues in the country, which promotes predictability in outcomes. And also the rules are designed to quickly and meaningfully advance resolution of disputes and discovery streamlined and accelerated, including limited interrogatories and depositions, which are designed to discourage vexatious discovery. And the commercial division also has a sophisticated and effective ADR program. So the bottom line is that in terms of getting your clients' complex commercial issues resolved, the New York Commercial Division is designed to do that efficiently and effectively, and so that the clients have confidence that the system is working.
Susan, Ted just gave us a really terrific overview. Let's drill down into the issues that he was discussing, though. What are the pros and cons of the commercial division as opposed to the federal courts or other state courts around the country?
Yeah, absolutely. I will say at the outset that I am primarily in federal court, but when I get a case in the commercial division, for me, it's exciting because it is different and they do things, and I can speak on that. And not to knock the other courts, but everyone who's spoken so far has touched on this. But the one thing I think is a big pro is that because the commercial division is designed specifically for commercial cases, you're not competing for courtroom attention with Social Security cases, habeas cases, and this plethora of pro se cases that I remember well, being federal court clerk, that you might see a lot in federal court. And this specialized focus, I think, you can see it play out, ensures more time and resources into resolving complex business dispute, which we handle, at big law firms. That's essentially what we do. And again, there's been a lot talked about so far about the judges, but they're basically experts in commercial business law. And because of that, they understand the nuances of business structures, the valuations and high stake contracts, which leads to more informed, efficient decision making, which definitely impacts the day-to-day and the quickness in which we can see the movement in our cases. I want to say a quick word about the rules. Just, on all of our roles on the advisory council, we do focus on rules, and they're not being made for the sake of being made. We like to watch what's happening in the commercial division and think about how best to support the advancement of making things more efficient, making it a lot easier to practice in the commercial division, making it the court of choice for a lot of us when we do have that choice and that discretion. And the rules, if you really look at them, you can see the efforts to streamline discovery, to focus motion practice, and to reduce all the unnecessary ones that can clog up dockets. And they really do focus on trying to address the complexity of commercial litigation and reduce costs, because, as you know, that's just something that our clients care a lot about. They did before, they more so now as sophisticated consumers of legal services. I want to also mention one last thing. It's just the efforts to modernize are just kind of knocking at the door. We have cutting edge tools like virtual evidence rooms and remote hearings that make litigation more flexible and efficient. These are the innovations that the division that set apart the commercial division from courts that tend to be slower, I have to say, to adapt to the changing times. So I'll kind of rambled on, but I'll stop right there.
Thank you very much. Ted, I just want to touch briefly on one aspect of what Susan was talking about, and also your initial comments. What about the differences in the background and the experience of the judges in the commercial division in comparison with the federal judiciary? We've touched on that a little bit, but do you have any further thoughts on that?
Yes, I think with respect to the commercial division, that the judges who have been assigned to that court want to focus on resolving complex business issues. Whereas if you go to federal court, first, if you step back, the backgrounds of many of the federal judges are that they came up as assistant United States attorneys doing criminal prosecutions. And it's not uncommon if you go to federal court that the federal judges, especially the younger ones, it'll take them a while to transfer their criminal prosecution background to doing complex commercial cases. They're all smart, and everybody you'll eventually get there. But you can be guaranteed when you go to the New York Commercial Division, you are going to draw a judge that has been selected and wants to focus on resolving complex commercial cases, and that person is really steeped in that particular area. Also, in my view, the commercial division judges are focused in a very holistic way on what is good for the court system and the New York court system and businesses who are working in New York. So they're thinking not just about their rulings at the trial level, but how is this going to play out at the appellate division and in the Court of Appeals. Whereas in federal court, they don't necessarily have that holistic view. Because in all candor, what we are doing in New York, we are holding ourselves out to the business community as a place that's best suited for resolving their commercial disputes. And we're in competition in all candor with Delaware, okay, in terms of the Delaware chancery practices. So what we are doing is trying to make sure that our New York commercial division judges are the best judges in the country for resolving these complex cases. And we're saying to the business community, you don't need to go to Delaware. You don't need to go to the federal court. You don't need to go to private arbitration. We are the best place to resolve these types of cases.
Susan, what makes cases in the commercial division different? If you had 30 seconds to describe it, which is how long you have to describe it. You'll forgive me. You muted yourself again.
Yeah, I'm just not to kind of repeat anything that others said, but one thing that I would say is the expertise of the judges, in the efficiencies kind of embedded in the rules, I think really impacts clients. Understanding this, the audience is mostly law students, but that's really going to be a part of your life as you head into practice. But I can't express how much the faster case resolution, reduced risks, and the better understanding of the business complexities, really has an impact on how we, as private practitioners, serve our clients.
Ted, what would you say to law students considering a clerkship at the commercial division?
It's a great opportunity. I would encourage them to do so. Understand when a big complex case comes into a private law firm and you are putting together a team, the first thing you want to do is make sure that you have people on that team who have experience in a particular forum where that case is going to be litigated. So if Paul Weiss has a multi-billion-dollar commercial dispute, and after consultation with the client, we've decided to file it in the commercial division, we're going to want to make sure that team is staffed with associates who have experience in that court. So that's a valued skill in the major law firms. And Paul Weiss, we have multiple associates who have clerked on the commercial division. And when we have these big complex cases, very often we're fighting over them as to who is going to be on the team. So it's a very valued clerkship, and I would encourage everybody listening to think about it as a place to go after law school.
Thank you very much, both Susan and Ted. I want to turn now to a different topic, and that is the perspective of a corporate client and why a corporate client would bring a case in the commercial division. And Michelle Browdy, who is also a member of the Commercial Division Advisory Council, currently senior advisor, but formerly senior vice president and general counsel of IBM Corporation. And before that, a Kirkland & Ellis litigation partner for a number of years, is going to address this topic. And Michelle, let's start out. Could you just tell us what your general observations are about the commercial division from the client perspective?
Sure, Bob, happy to do it. And let me just start out by saying, I know we're not supposed to spend time on our backgrounds, but as a former clerk in state court, a former trial lawyer who tried cases in state courts around the country, I have very strong views on how important it is to get high quality clerks into the state court system, into the commercial division, and also the benefits that students get from having that experience. But I've promised to focus my remarks instead on the client perspective. And let me just start out with just some background. I mean, think about it. Litigation is something that really matters to companies. It's important that we understand that our contracts are going to be enforced. It's important to know that we can protect our intellectual property rights. We have to understand whether and where we have commercial certainty and protection of the rule of law. It's important to know whether or where we can get disputes resolved in a timely way. And these litigation matters are things that are at a company not just discussed narrowly within the confines of the law department itself, but, as you heard Ted or others reference, some of a company's most strategic matters can go into litigation. Things that affect your brand, reputation, billions of dollars can be at stake. Business leaders care about these issues. They want to know that they can enforce contracts, protect intellectual property. Litigation is something that we discuss with boards of directors and audit committees. For public companies, the largest matters we face are disclosed and described to our investors in public filings. Those are the investors, the shareholders that actually own the company. So with all that background then, when you think about the major corporations headquartered in New York, and many of which, like IBM, are actually New York corporations, the ability to be able to rely on the commercial division as a trusted, high-quality court for business litigation is absolutely critical. And, don't just take my word for it. Look at the dockets, look at the public filings of companies like IBM, and you'll see that companies can and do bring their biggest, most significant litigation matters to the commercial division. So, my general observation is we need this court, we use this court, we trust this court, and it's important to the business community that the court has the resources it needs, including high-quality courts, high-quality clerks, in order to remain a world-class forum for dispute resolution.
Tell us about the commercial division judges from your perspective.
Well, probably not surprising, but I think a lot of lawyers would have the view kind of the quality of the court and the quality of the judges are going to go hand in hand. And particularly for commercial matters, like we're talking about here, companies know how to opt out of a court system in favor of private dispute resolution if you need to. You can have a simple contract clause, right? And there are certainly places in corners of the world where we wouldn't use the courts or trust the courts. But instead, as I mentioned, the companies in New York do continue to rely on the commercial division because they trust the division, which means inherently that they trust the judges. We know that a case brought in the commercial division is going to be overseen by sophisticated judges, people who are commercially astute, people who are comfortable with complexity, and who can be counted on to handle the breadth and depth of the kinds of matters generated by the kind of companies you have here in the world's leading financial center. And we also know that these folks understand the importance of providing justice in a timely way.
What about integrity, fairness, professionalism, those kinds of issues in the commercial division?
Yeah, maybe it shouldn't go without saying, but the commitment to integrity and professionalism, I think, is something that does go without saying. We have litigation matters all over the world, and we wouldn't bring cases in courts that weren't committed to integrity, fairness, and professionalism. It's basic table stakes, but it's certainly something that you get hands down in the commercial division.
And let me just finish up. How about innovation and self-improvement?
I think the division is constantly innovating and trying to innovate. I mean, you opened your remarks with a nice description of the commercial division advisory council working, lawyers working together with the justices to see, what changes we can make to help improve the speed, efficiency, quality of justice. And you mentioned it's about 12 years old now. And when I first joined it, I thought we'd do it for a couple of years, we'd finish up and go on to something else. But we're still routinely trying to take the steps. What could help make this court system better? And reflecting now, I think we did a session like this, Bob, probably 3 years ago or so, just in that time, to see the improvements that we've made, the additional proof points we have, the confidence that you hear from the speakers on this panel of just the way this court continues to evolve and provide professionalism is really something really positive to see.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Judge Driscoll, I'd like to move on to you, if I could, from a different perspective now, a judicial perspective, with a little bit of history and some discussion of the court's capabilities. Let me start by asking, how about a very brief history of the commercial division?
Sure. Thank you, Bob, and thank you for welcoming me here today. The commercial division has been around for almost 40 years. It started with 4 judges in New York County as an experiment pursuant to the directive of then Chief Judge Judy Kaye, along with leaders in the bar, including yourself, Bob, and many others who continue to be active in the commercial bar. It has expanded to have nearly 30 judges throughout the state, all throughout the state. I sit in Nassau County, just a suburb just to the east of New York City, but we have commercial division judges in Nassau, Suffolk, Queens, Brooklyn, Bronx, New York, of course, and in Albany and Erie County and in the 8th Judicial District. There are 9 in New York County historically, and that's how many we have now. And the commercial division, I think, is the hallmark of it, and it's been highlighted by other speakers, but I want to reiterate it, it's that judges who really want to be there. Each of the 30 of us have sought appointment to the commercial division, and we recognize the privilege that we have in being appointed to the commercial division, dealing with lawyers who are incredibly talented, incredibly hardworking, and dealing with litigants who want those business disputes resolved expertly and expeditiously.
Judge, what about current capabilities of the commercial division? Could you talk a little bit about the types of cases and the issues that you typically confront?
Sure. So our commercial division rules, which, as Michelle mentioned, continue to be a work in progress. The hallmark of those rules is that we take cases arising out of business dealings that meet a jurisdictional threshold. So in New York County, the jurisdictional threshold is 500,000. And I just want to tie into what the previous speaker said. That 500,000, I know this isn't a math quiz, but that's more than 6 times the jurisdictional threshold to get into federal court. So not that money is a proxy for importance or even a proxy for complexity, but it does give you an idea of the stakes that we have in New York County. Where I am in Nassau County, our jurisdictional threshold is 200,000, and throughout the state, it's between 50 and 150,000 in the other areas. The types of cases that we do, the phrase I use is, it's what makes America great. And what makes America great is not anyone on television talking about what makes America great. What makes America great is people working hard at businesses trying to succeed. We deal with cases involving complicated financial instruments, breach of contract, business divorce, shareholder disputes, either among themselves or with management. The example I give is the first case I ever tried in the commercial division was about how fertilizer bags are made. It was $1 million case about fertilizer bags. I never looked at my lawn the same way again. And so the capabilities of the commercial division, I dare say, are anything at all. In my courtroom, I did the largest litigated valuation case in the history of the country, the Arizona iced tea case, where I decided the value of the Arizona iced tea company, a private company, back in 2014. Each commercial division judge has her own story of a career case. We'll hear from Judge Maisley, we'll hear from Judge Chan. They all have their versions of career cases, and yet we get those career cases all of the time. So what are our capabilities? Anything arising out of business dealings.
Judge, what do you like about your work?
So that's kind of a trick question, because I love my work. I can't wait to get to work every day. And I think that I know that I am not unique as one of the 30 judges who thinks that. I know that all of my sisters and brothers think that. What I love about it is that every day is different. It is Heraclitus's river, for those of you who studied philosophy in college. Every day is truly different. You can't have the same day twice. What I also love is the talent of the lawyers that are before me, such zealous advocates for their position, and they keep me on literally the edge of my seat when I'm in the courtroom. And I also really appreciate the support of our court administration. We are permitted a significant amount of resources, and our caseload is lower than the average civil part. I know there were some questions on the chat about comparing us to the Delaware Chancery Court. My caseload is about 200 to 250 cases. My sisters and brothers in Manhattan have caseloads probably approaching 350 to 400. That is still far more than our sisters and brothers in Delaware Chancery, where their caseloads are about 100. But we do enjoy great support from the court administration. And last but not least, the Commercial Division Advisory Council, which Michelle had mentioned. We met last night, and I came away so inspired by the work of my colleagues on the council, and again, their inspiration, that I should continue to think about ways to resolve my cases expeditiously and inexpensively, both for the court system and for the litigants before me.
Judge, if a law student wants to be a law clerk or a law intern in the commercial division, what kinds of skills should that student highlight?
I think hard work, the desire to work hard. The judge that you're applying to is going to be working very hard. My car is often the last car to leave the parking lot on many evenings. So you have to reflect that judge's work ethic. Attention to detail also. It's not just a matter of dotting the I's and crossing the T's. It's a matter of finding the law, being able to explain the law. which of course is a challenge in this, the artificial intelligence age. And I think it's also a desire and embracing that every day is going to be different. For some who might want the comfort level of doing the same thing day in and day out, that's fine. That's certainly not the commercial division.
Last question for you. Why should law schools encourage students to apply for clerkships in the commercial division?
I think I want to reflect what was stated earlier particularly by Ted Wells. When you're looking to put together a team, you want people on that team who are experienced in the, pardon the expression, game that you're playing. I'm just going to continue with the metaphor. And if you have had a clerkship in the commercial division, you know the ins and outs, not just of the judge for whom you're clerking, but you know the ins and outs of the commercial division with our specialized rules, with our specialized practice, and indeed with our work ethic. And you're comfortable, you've embraced that, and you're comfortable and able to add value to your law firm or to the government agency you work at when you leave the commercial division.
Thank you very much, Judge Driscoll. I'd now like to turn to Commercial Division Justice Margaret Chan, and with a couple of questions about the types of work that a commercial division clerk does. And the first question I had, though, a couple of people have touched on this before, but what is the difference between the work of a commercial division law clerk and a federal law clerk?
Hi, Bob. Thank you for inviting me to this panel. I thought about this question, and I would say, while for all law clerks, reading, writing, researching, that's the key aspects of their jobs. But what's different with clerks in my part or in the commercial division is the conferencing, the very hands-on management of discovery issues. My clerks will do discovery conferences about 2 days a week. So it's very hands-on. They know the cases well. They know the parties well. They know the attorneys well. So I think that's a major difference.
Do you think that the experience as a law clerk carries over into the, the clerk's professional career afterwards?
Definitely. First, as the other former speakers said, they know the subject matter very well. They've done deep discovery into issues concerning business disputes. They've written on it. And so but aside from the subject matter, they also know good advocacy because they have observed all the excellent lawyers that come before this part or through their writing that we receive. So I think from both, they carry that knowledge, and as well as how to be a lawyer when they go into the law firms, what makes for a better practice.
And speaking of that, what are the advantages to a law firm of hiring a former commercial division law clerk?
Well, as mentioned before, you'll get someone who knows how the courts work, how the commercial division work, commercial division judges are, and you're going to get a very smart, very organized, and very conscientious employee or lawyer that will have the substance, the legal aspects of the case, walking right into your door, and you're going to have good advocacy skills. So all that, I think for a firm to hire is excellent for those who are who are practicing in commercial litigation.
Thank you very much, Judge Chan. And our last speakers, second to last group of speakers, are two individuals. One is a current clerk, and the other one has been a clerk in the past. Kevin Quartino is currently at Foley and Lardner, but he, in the past, had been Justice Andrea Maisley's former law clerk, and Portia Johnson is the principal law clerk to Commercial Division Justice Robert R. Reed at the present time. And Kevin, let me start out with you. How did the clerkship that you had help you get your current position in private practice?
Certainly, Bob. And first of all, thank you so much for having me here today. Hi, everyone. My name is Kevin Quartino, and I'm a commercial litigator at Foley and Lardner. And to answer Bob's question, I was hired at Foley and Lardner precisely because I worked in the commercial division and, of course, had the privilege to work for Justice Maisley, the senior commercial division judge in New York County. And part of this is because commercial division law clerks, as it's been alluded to already, really get an opportunity to not only build an expertise in New York's substantive commercial law, but also New York's procedural law, which is not always intuitive. And as it's also been alluded here already today, many of the big law firms have presences in New York because it's the financial center of the world. And they're bringing their multi-million-dollar, multi-billion-dollar contract cases in the commercial division precisely because those judges are so sophisticated when it comes to business matters. And as a result, the big law firms know that there's really no better person to have in your camp than a former commercial division law clerk, because that person not only has like the substantive expertise, the procedural expertise, but is also so familiar with the commercial division rules and has an experience that is unparalleled. They're very comfortable in the court. They know their way around. One thing that comes to mind, truthfully, is subsequent to my hiring here, the former managing partner noted to me something along the lines like, Kevin, you are our state court whisperer, because the procedural questions were coming to me, the substantive questions were coming to me. And this is all because I just had the opportunity to work for Judge Maisley in the commercial division. And this is not a unique experience that I've had. There are plenty of commercial division law clerks that have gone on to other major law firms, whether it's Paul Weiss, Quinn Emanuel, Morrison Forrester, I could go on.
Thank you. Portia, has your clerkship benefited your growth as an attorney? And if so, how?
Thank you, Bob. Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, absolutely. It has benefited my growth as an attorney. I have practiced for several years in private practice before coming to Justice Reed's chambers. And so in working as his principal, I had a really special opportunity to shift away from client-facing advocacy and to get a kind of behind-the-curtain view of how the court system works, which is just invaluable. You really get to understand insights into really complex cases and matters that you wouldn't normally have the opportunity to see absent just reading a decision. You really get the opportunity to speak to the judge and work with one another with my other clerks to really flesh out legal issues and flesh out policy considerations and considerations of equity and fairness and the effect of certain and the impact of certain decisions. So it provides a really special opportunity to grow personally as a lawyer, which is invaluable and something I really encourage law students to focus on, positions that help you grow, because those are going to be the positions that are going to be the best ones for you in your career.
Kevin, you mentioned to me that you had a unique experience when you were in chambers, but you didn't tell me what it was. Could you share it with me and everybody else?
Well, as I was sort of thinking about this, Bob, there are a couple of unique experiences that come to mind, and they range from, not only having the privilege of managing conferences with big law partners, but also I had the opportunity to assist Justice Maisley when she authored a chapter in a commercial litigation treatise. And obviously, this was an invaluable credentialing opportunity that many people don't get. when I think about other unique opportunities, I think about how commercial division law clerks are in a position where every day they're reading some of the best briefs written by some of the best lawyers in the state, if not the country. And when you're doing that day in and day out, you are learning from not only the judge, obviously, but from the commercial litigators who are pretty legendary, some of them who are on this call right now. And one opportunity comes to mind, which is I had the opportunity to do a first draft of a motion to dismiss. And there were two major law firms on both sides, and it involved a financial institution that we all know of. And the level of the lawyering was extraordinary. And when you are a commercial division law clerk, you're in this position where you're not only learning from your judge, but you're learning the law from the best practitioners that are out there. And you're seeing how they lawyer, you're seeing how they craft their arguments. And they're also pointing out, sometimes obscure points of law that you wouldn't encounter on a day-to-day basis. Another unique opportunity, I would say, is I had the opportunity to learn from the principal court attorney for Justice Maisley, just like Portia's Ms. Johnson's a principal court attorney. Justice Maisley has Victoria Corbo. And that was invaluable because she taught me how to scrutinize complaints, look for what's being alleged, what's not being alleged. And that's come in handy not only for when I was a clerk and had to do motions to dismiss, but also in private practice as I draft motions to dismiss. And lastly, I have to note that the unique opportunity is obviously working for a commercial division judge. It's no secret that they are amongst the most powerful and sophisticated judges in the state. As some of the judges have alluded to, they go to work every day and decide millions, if not billion-dollar cases. And that kind of learning opportunity is invaluable. You really don't get that many places else, to be honest.
Portia, let me finish this segment up with you. And can you tell us a little bit about your day, your average day as a principal law clerk, and why you enjoy the role?
So I'll give you just a brief summary very quickly of my day today. So we had conferences this morning, and so each one of the clerks takes a conference or two. And so we spend time with the parties discussing the issues and the discovery and the scope of the case and the allegations being made. I, in particular, tend to handle more of the complex disputes regarding the scope of discovery. And so today we heard rather intricate arguments regarding disclosure disputes between parties following a deposition. And so there was an in-depth conversation over the allegations of the complaint and whether the testimony of that witness and how it aligned with or departed from the allegations of the complaint. And so then after the conferences, we had an opportunity and between all of us together, and this is the part of the job that I love the most, to sit with my assistant clerks and really discuss the legal arguments, discuss the advocacy, what was persuasive, what was not persuasive, what does the law say, and how was it applied in this context, either correctly by an attorney or perhaps incorrectly by an attorney. And so again, to the law students on this call, I cannot express enough what a valuable experience this is, because this is ground level training that you can't get anywhere else. The ability to speak to the judge and obtain his thoughts on the different issues presented, and it is an ever moving train. Every day is a different case with a different issue, with a different dispute. And so if you are a fan of Succession and Billions, which I am, that is what I like to joke and say we experience here, because it really can be that intriguing, the type of issues that you come across on a day-to-day basis. And so that is what I love, the changing nature of the work that we do and the value that we contribute, and both to the firms and to the business world in the work that we do here.
Thank you very much, Kevin and Portia. And our last speaker, and we have just two questions, but maybe the two most important questions. Judge Maisley, how can law students find out more about these commercial division clerkship opportunities? What do they do?
Before I get to that, can I just say thank you for inviting me to join you? But most of all, thank you to all the speakers for all the kind words and for your confidence in us, the judges, and our law clerks. So with that, I'll share my screen and show you, yeah. So this is the NewYorkCourts.gov. So go to the NewYorkCourts.gov website. Go to the commercial division page, and there you'll see a list of the judges who have posted opportunities. So right now we have 4 judges, including myself, up. And you would go, let's see, if you want an internship, you would go to that button. The instructions are there. Oops. Sorry, stop sharing. I'm usually not the sharer. I'm usually the one having the thing shared with me. So, so just go to the NewYorkCourts.gov website. You'll see the list of judges. You'll see the graph with who has openings, whether it's a principal opening, which is the position that Portia has. It's the position Tracy had. It's the position I took after Tracy with Judge Ramos. And then we have the junior positions, the commercial division law clerk position, and which is what Kevin had. And then there's the junior law clerk position. So we've tried to make it really easy to go to this webpage, and I hope that you will think about a law clerk position or an internship. We have internships all year round. And I think that I hope you get the message from today's presenters that it's a great opportunity and a great relationship too between the law clerks and the judges, and one that continues throughout your career, frankly. And I'm so proud of that. So.
I think you've also kind of anticipated my second question, but is any other thoughts on how students should go about applying for them? Is it going to the website, finding out the information there, and complying with the application procedure? Are the procedures for applying all set out there?
The instructions are there, and so they tell you, the webpage tells you what's available, who's looking, and what steps you follow for each individual judge, because we each have individual requirements or procedures in how to apply. And so just follow those procedures and your application will be correct.
Okay, that completes our our formal program. We've got, I have a number of questions, but some of them came in early before we've done the program, and I think they've been substantially answered. Here's one that says, is a law school 3.0 GPA too low to apply for such clerkships?
No, apply. We like to see your experience is not just your GPA, but your work experience and your life experience.
Another one is, what type of work experience makes someone a more competitive candidate for the commercial division's clerkship positions? Any thoughts on that?
Showing an interest in commercial law or business is helpful. So not necessary, but it certainly, shows that you want to be here.
Yeah, I think the experience in the commercial division, particularly with judges, is sometimes judges that don't have a huge amount of commercial experience and background, if they have all the other qualities we've been talking about, do very well as commercial division judges. And I would think the same thing probably applies to law clerks. There's a question about how does the commercial division compare to the Delaware Chancery Court? Are similar motions cases? I think we've answered that. with the differential. Jen, I think, covered that. And I think that's it. That now somebody wants to know about upstate clerkships.
So the 30 judges in the commercial division have law clerks. Some of us choose to have 3 law clerks. Some of us choose to have 2, and some may have 1 law clerk and 1 administrative assistant. So go to NewYorkCourts.gov, the commercial division website. There's a page for each judge, and there's a description of each judge's chambers.
And I think that covers.
I'm gonna show that. I figured out how to do this again. I'm just gonna show the web page, the page for all the different courts. So I think that you can see that. I can't tell. There we go. So this is the web page for the commercial division. And it has each county and each judicial district that has the court. If you press the button, you'll see the list of all the judges and the rules. And so here we have Judge Chan's chamber's description, her practices, her confidentiality stipulation, preliminary conference order. So you can learn a lot by looking at the judge's webpage, which is on nycourts.gov.
All right, we are a couple minutes over. I want to thank the panel for doing an absolutely terrific job in shedding light on the commercial division, on the opportunities that are presented from diverse perspectives of law firms, in-house counsel, and judges, and for the interest and enthusiasm that all of the speakers have brought to the table. Thank you very much to everyone who's attended.
Thank you.
Here. We are adjourned.
Thank you, Bob.